St. Pete to Jacksonville, Florida. I'm meteorologist Mike Prangley with Robert Speta. Great to see you. And look, Robert, I took the dog bow tie off. It's bow ties off here in Tampa. It's hot. What do you got going on there in Jacksonville?
Whoa. Yeah, bow ties off. That's, yeah, I can tell you, I know Mike for a while now. If bow ties off, that means it's serious over here. Hey, always love you with your bow tie, though. One of the few people on TV who can actually pull it off. You see a lot of people, you're like, come on, man. Put a normal tie on. I'm one of them. It ain't going to look good on me. But
well, you do
so,
yes.
I know over here it's been raining, Mike, and I want to ask you a real quick question there. You haven't really seen too much of the rain, but you've been dealing with the heat there in Tampa, right?
We have. In fact, it's been surprising. Kind of, you know, Miami has the official heat advisory both yesterday and today. We had 7 straight heat advisories. And then yesterday, the Weather Service pulled it. You want to be between 108 and 112, but we had several readings around the area into that danger zone again. So I showed a special graph and I said, hey, just because we don't have an advisory, once again, we're flirting in that danger zone once again today. Really anything over 105, I tell folks we got to really slow it down a bit and really be extra careful. So it's been about the heat because we haven't had that stalled front like you've had. And what's been interesting is we've had some of the tops of thunderstorms, the wispy cumulus blow-off or the debris clouds, as we like to say. And it's been creating these beautiful sunrises and sunsets. And meanwhile, I've been watching your radar and a totally different story in Jacksonville, right?
Absolutely different story over in our neck of the woods. We've been getting this persistent rainfall. And I want to break down our forecast here in Jacksonville because we do actually have a weather impact alert in place. And it's not just the weather impact alert, but we also have a flood watch in place here in Jacksonville. And this is a look at our current map. Now, all of southeastern areas of Georgia, all our counties there from Waycross, Brunswick, Folkston, big towns there in southeastern Georgia, they're under a flood watch, but as well as Jacksonville, including Duval, Nassau County, Baker County, over towards northern areas of Columbia. And it's not just because of one local just heavy downpour, but yesterday we had widespread heavy rainfall out here. In fact, look at some of these rain totals. One spot southeast of Yulee, nearly over 4.5 inches of total precip. St. Simon's Island had about an inch and a half. Mayport almost got to 2 inches. And I did see radar estimates across parts of South Georgia. One spot, particularly just outside of Valdosta, had over 7 inches of rain in the last 24 hours. Radar estimates, so you have to kind of take that as it is. But boy, it has been, and we had training in a few of these spots. Now, the point of all of that is that here on the First Coast, this boundary has been set up over Jacksonville in North Florida, South Georgia, and it is still lingering in the area. So we still have more rain in our forecast, unfortunately, with areas from I-10 north still expecting an additional widespread 1 to 3 inches, but some spots could see an additional 5 inches. So you have that on top of saturated grounds, that rivers are already running a little bit high, and of course there is that threat of some flooding with that. So that's the big issue here on the First Coast today. We are going to be looking at those chances of thunderstorms. And you can see kind of where the rain cutoff, by the way, is for our friends across Central Florida, the I-4 corridor, and yes, over there towards the Tampa area, because you can see how you kind of got spots there, but it is not just this blanket of precipitation we're seeing across North Florida where that front is right now. And actually, look at Jacksonville's forecast as we go ahead through Monday afternoon. So tomorrow afternoon, these areas in the darker oranges indicating an additional 3 to 4 inches. Now, this is just one particular model, our in-house graph model, but it does give you a good indicator of what we're talking about here when we're saying we're expecting some training, this persistent waves of precipitation. They're going to bring those showers out here, and at least it does bring down the temperatures a little bit. In fact, you're talking about heat advisories for South Florida. In Jacksonville here in North Florida, we are looking at temperatures not getting into the 90s for the first time in a few weeks out here across the Jacksonville area. In fact, just a high of 89 today. The thing is, though, you have to take the good with the bad, increase in cloud cover, and also rain and scattered showers all across our area. And one other thing I really want to stress is with these storms, it's a very moist, rich environment. Anybody that was maybe in Jacksonville here yesterday would tell you the thunder was just going. We had what we called spider lightning. I want to get some photos of this. Spider lightning basically is the lightning just kind of crawls across the bottom of the clouds and it creates these long rumbles. And there was a period where it went on for like 5-10 minutes when I was just like, I had the window open, I was listening to it, consistent rumbling because there was just one lightning strike after another. And one of the main reasons for this is because we have this such moisture-rich environment. We have these waves of showers. It's not just your isolated afternoon sea breeze type setup for our friends across Jacksonville and the First Coast. And that's why yesterday we had a weather impact alert. Today we have a weather impact alert. It's not just us, but also the National Weather Service has those flood watches in place. And yeah, things are going to be picking up out there. Numerous shelters and the other numerous showers. Excuse me, I was kind of combined my impact and need line here. But do shelter if you hear that thunder. That's one thing I do want to stress because a lot of the times, and yesterday was definitely the case, that thunder was ongoing and that spider lightning was crawling across the sky. And a lot of the times it would crawl out of the parent thunderstorm and just kind of run across some of the cumulus clouds in the area. And that is, it goes to lend the fact that you can get those lightning strikes when it's not raining, and I think it catches people off guard sometimes. So just keep that in mind. But here's a look at the atmosphere, and this is really interesting. This moisture-rich environment, those areas in the darker greens and even the oranges here indicating just the moisture content in the atmosphere is loaded up. We are going to be looking at plenty of rainfall across North Florida here through today. And then we get back to kind of that diurnal setup, typical afternoon showers and thunderstorms as we look ahead into next week. But there's a look at your broader picture here. Now, I am going to get to the tropics in a minute here, but I do want to talk to Mike about your extended forecast because I'm sure it's not quite as wet. Before I get over there, let's stop right in the middle though, Mike, real quick here. And how about Orlando? Because there I was well into the 90s there, sandwiched right between Jacksonville and of course over there towards Tampa. They have those afternoon thunderstorms, kind of the diurnal setups right there into the middle of the state, but I know it's a little bit different the further west we go. So how are things looking in your neck of the woods, especially since you're just south of this front that's bringing us all of this rain over here?
Yeah, hey, first off, Robert, great job as always verifying the forecast with you. I've got a little special for our viewers from Tampa to Jacksonville. We're now, especially in Jacksonville, we're talking about a day where we're seeing, rounds of rain. You've got the flood watch. Some areas could end up with 5 to 10 inches before all is said and done next week. How about looking ahead? Steelers and Jaguars play next weekend, and it's never too early to look at the next weekend, Robert.
Yeah.
So what I did, I built a special little graphic here we're all excited about, not just Trevor, but yes, we've got Travis in the Trevor Show starting at 7 o'clock next Saturday at Everbank Stadium. Temperatures right around 80 degrees. And I do see the pattern changing a bit. We're going to be more in a typical Florida pattern. Instead of a stalled front and a trough, more like you get the earlier showers and storms between 2 and 4 o'clock downtown, and then they push to us here in Tampa to the west. And that's important. Notice I've got low impact for Jacksonville between 7 and 10. Temperatures holding around 80 southeast winds. And then by the time you head into Raymond James Stadium, the Titans are coming to town. Boy, it's going to be a lot of fun out there because even though we could see a pop-up storm close to kickoff, maybe for the tailgaters, things will quiet down. This is quite common for this time of year, so I've got a 40% chance of a pop-up storm. Hopefully we'll keep that lightning away from Raymond James Stadium. Temperatures in the lower
Mike,
80s.
I would like to jump in real quick too.
Yes.
You know what I like about these forecasts? Is that the fact that they are taking place, the games, both of these games, take place at 7 and 7:30. So at the very least, you're not baking for that first preseason game out there, right?
Yeah, Robert, I need some tickets to that Jaguar game. Let's see, 7 o'clock. I can somehow get there. So I'll meet you at the Bud Zone. All right, now let's take a look at the wall. Let's come back to the wall. Hey, Troy, I'm going to go over to the weather wall now. I showed you the Titans and the Bucks here next week. And, you know, Raymond James, I've had the most fun. I've had so much fun watching football games out there as well. So I'm looking for some Bucks tickets as well as we go into this season. So we've got the overall forecast for Tampa today. Looking forward to getting all of our plans in, it looks like, for the most part. But again, verifying the Robert Speta forecast, you're looking live at some of that heavy rain he was talking about, really starting to fill in along I-75. We were talking about that spider lightning along the First Coast yesterday, and there's some more cloud to ground lightning strikes right now moving in toward Lake City and southern Columbia County, quickly moving toward areas of McClenny, watching areas of Stark here over the next 30 minutes or so. So if you're in Jacksonville, don't wait until it's too late. We're not waiting until it rains today, right? We're getting inside if we hear that thunder. And then Crystal River. So we really pinpointed this area here in Tampa this morning. If we were going to see one of those pop-up showers, it would be by late morning, early afternoon. You can see we're trying to pop a cooling shower towards Citrus County. But again, the overall trend with that stalled front to the north would keep all of this moisture and the heavier rain across northeast Florida. Really, my cutoff line, Gainesville, Alachua County, that'll go through about Daytona Beach northward with the heaviest rain today. And so look at the transition. Look at the difference between north and south. And what Robert and I have been talking about this weekend, the farther north you go, the heavier the rain. Be extra careful. There's a lot of travelers, folks getting those last-minute vacation plans in. It could be a real mess on the roadways. Please be careful if you're commuting, especially towards St. Augustine, where it's 85, the heat index of 97. But once you get farther away from the front, it gets hotter and hotter. Here in Tampa, we're officially at 103 in the shade, actual air temperature of 89. And then notice Miami with that heat advisory today, they're at 99. So here in Tampa, we're even warmer than Miami in places they do have the heat advisory in place. So another reason we need to slow it down. And yes, as we look at this radar here, we're watching quiet in Tampa. So heat safety, wear light colored clothing, take frequent breaks from the heat. Less alcohol, less caffeine. I did have a little coffee this morning, okay, I admit that, but it's all about more water, the magic molecule, and make sure you have electrolytes. We're protecting the people, the pets, and the plants. Heat, of course, we called for parched plants here in Tampa today because we're not going to get much in the way of rain, and we're seeking activity in the AC. This doesn't mean we can't get out to the beach for a little while, but also taking those breaks from the beach, even at the pool, where pool temperatures here in Pinellas County are up to 92 in some backyards. So keep that in mind. So this is what I was talking about as our big story here in Tampa. And what we need to do is we need to slow it down. Okay, I love running, but I've got a treadmill run set up for this afternoon, because once we hit that 100-degree mark like we did at 10 a.m. Look how long. Look at the duration of the triple digits. Pretty amazing all the way through 7 o'clock tonight. So you look at the forecast heat index and you look at the red stripe, that's the danger zone. And notice our temperature's right up there, especially by 3, 4 o'clock as the hottest part of the day. But again, still taking those heat precautions even as we head towards sunset at 8 o'clock, feeling like 99 degrees. We take a look at our chances of rain. This is our fresh information in, and the best we can do is less than 10% right now. I went for that 20% coverage, mainly north and south toward Arcadia. So as we look at our high resolution futurecast, you can see we do have an onshore flow. It's very light. We don't really have a big sea breeze collision like we normally see, a light southwest flow, front to the north, and there's our heat indices well up over 100, not just for Tampa, I mean all the way to Wauchula, Frostproof, St. Cloud, Leesburg, and if we do pop a storm well inland towards Sebring and Wauchula and Frostproof as we head into late afternoon, and then a nice quiet evening. Those wispy cirrus clouds. Okay, Robert talked about the spider lightning up in Jacksonville, but we've had debris clouds here in Tampa, giving us extra special and beautiful sunrises and sunsets, and I see that once again this evening into the overnight. Now that we're heading to the peak of rainy season, yes, we're going to keep our eye to the sky, but notice, August leads the pack in Tampa overall, just over 9 inches. I know Jacksonville, their wettest month is in September, so really we're reaching the peak rainy season for both Tampa and Jacksonville. So here in Tampa, whenever you can get a little break in the rainy season, it's welcome in some respects, but we could use some of your rain. Robert, I think you need to share some of that rain because it's awfully hot out there, as I've been showing you. In fact, as I get back to the Weather Center, we'll toss back to Robert here. You can see we are going to start to see a little change in the pattern here in Tampa, a little better deep level moisture Robert was showing you that on the precipitable water. So I've upped the coverage of rain to 40% on Monday. And you see the darker greens, and the darker green shade about a quarter or a half inch. And notice we've got more areas that will see that tomorrow, especially Wesley Chapel, over to Lakeland, Plant City, up to our friends up in toward areas Spring Hill, and even some of our inland areas a little farther to the south and east. And tomorrow, I think things will start to fill in between 2 and 6 o'clock with some of that lightning and the heavy rain. So coming back, we'll take a closer look at that long-range forecast. But getting back to Jacksonville, Robert, here we're excited about. I showed the football forecast for you guys and us because it's a sign that fall is coming. And we will eventually cool down, okay, and we will eventually dry out. We just have to be patient getting there. But at least football is a sign we're heading in the right direction, right?
Yeah, it is a sign at the very least. But it's at the same time, those August and September games, you just get cooked out there.
Yes.
And you know what else is a sign, though?
They used to have
of the changing seasons is the tropics, right? We do have an area out here that we're a couple areas we're keeping an eye on. And I actually I got a trivia question here.
Okay.
I'm going to toss to you, and then I'm going to go through kind of what we're looking at real quick out here in the tropics.
Okay.
And when I come back to you here, Mike, and everybody at home watching, let's see if you can get this right. No Googling, though, okay?
Okay.
All right, so let's talk about this.
All right.
So, well, the question is, because a lot of people are saying it's been a slow start to the hurricane season. And we know that the average first-name hurricane in the Atlantic is August 11th. That is just based on historical data. But what is the latest first-named storm in the Atlantic on record? Extra points if you can name said storm and give me the year. I'll give you a hint, Mike. I think you were working in Jacksonville when this did take place. I'm pretty confident. So, okay, well then you probably know it. Let's give everybody at home a moment to think about it, and I'll get you that answer. But I think you probably know this one. All right, so here's a look at the tropics right now, because we do have a couple areas out there, and that same boundary that we've been talking about bringing all the rain to the first coast is also producing this area. This is fresh data, by the way, just came out. So if you're watching us live here, you're some of the first people to get that data. 50% chance now of tropical development just off the coastline of the Carolinas. Now, here's the deal, all right? You're looking at that and you're going, oh, wow, that's really close to Florida. Now, look at the overall flow. Let's look at the clouds here, friends. Okay, it's moving from west to east. So you don't have to be a meteorologist to figure out where this is going. It's heading out to sea. Plus, even if this is named, it's probably going to be subtropical, because you can see here, actually, if we look really closely, you can kind of almost see the spin here on satellite imagery. You see the low clouds right there? That tells me all of the convection is on the eastern side of this. It's getting a nice little slap of shear on it. Basically, think of a candle, and you blow on a candle, and you know how it leans to the side. That's kind of what's happening with this area. So yes, it is increasing in a tropical chance of development. It's moving away. It's being sheared apart. It is zero issues for the state of Florida. It's going away. Maybe Bermuda's probably going to see some waves out of it. Also, guidance has been picking up on maybe a secondary low behind that too. That's a little bit interesting. But at the same time, we're keeping an eye out on the main formation area, because look at that. You know, there's plenty of convection here. There's one particular model that's been kind of trying to develop this, the ECMWF. You can see right there, putting a tight, actually, let's see if I can circle it. So right here, you see that? There you go. That is the ECMWF. You can see the Euro. The guidance has been trying to develop something. And then you see this right here. That's the GFS trying to develop the same area around the same time. The key difference is not just the particular low pressure area, but it's all about the Bermuda High. And I'm sure Mike has some graphics that I know yesterday he had some good ones talking about this. How the Bermuda High is retreating based on the Euro, while the GFS, it kind of pushes it further west. So that takes stuff closer to the coastline. My point in all of this is, when we're talking about long-range models, first off, it's August. We're talking about the tropics. It's not to sensationalize it. It is a normal thing this time of year. We talk about the tropics. We have a storm system out there. The first average hurricane's August 11th. The tropics start to heat up. But also, the long-range guidance, the further out you go with chaos theory, and numerical models are only as good as their initialization data, so some slight adjustments can make big changes like you just seen there with the GFS and the European. So if we're talking a week and a half, 2 weeks out, there's a lot of uncertainty, friends. The point is we're going to continue to monitor out in that area. And not to mention, we're always keeping track of those sea surface temperatures, Saharan dust, all these other factors that come into play when we're talking about the tropics like this. So, Mike, I want you to answer this question here real quick here for you. If you got it, extra points if you know the name and the year. What is the latest hurricane formation on record, specifically the date? The answers are August 15th, August 30th, September 20th, or none formed at all. Now, this goes back to like the 1850s, so we say on record, not in all of history. Somebody's going to say, well, at one point there was ice ball Earth and there was no storm. Come on. So what are you thinking there, Mike?
Well, you gave a good, I love the questions. I always love the trivia. I'm going to go with Hurricane Andrew 1992. Because that's when I was interning at First Coast News with Tim Deegan, and it was just unforgettable going on through all the models. And at one point, Robert, that storm, it really lost its punch. There were only a few clouds left. So it started as a tropical system, and it just really weakened. And Tim and I said, not so quick. Everybody was writing it off. True story. They said, this thing's just ragged. It just doesn't have a chance. And sure enough, it got its act together. And then once it got its act together, it's just started rolling and rumbling toward the west, toward Florida, unfortunately. A Category 5 by the time it reached landfall in southern Florida.
So I had to double check this because I was like, oh yeah, Andrew. But Andrew formed on August 16th.
Oh.
There was a Gustav in 2002 that formed on August 30th. So I gotcha. No,
you got me.
Hey, no, but Andrew is a fair answer. And Andrew is the one that we always remember and the one that everybody always talks about when we say it only takes one, because it's an A-named storm. So it's like, yeah, that was the first named storm of the year. So, yeah. Anyways,
it's all good.
That's my little trivia here for you, Mike.
I love it. Okay. I'm going to remember Gustav. All right. So that was an awesome question.
Let's toss it back to your side, though. Let's see what you got going on.
Yeah, hey, we're looking at the typical tropical origins. You were talking about that high pressure. I'm going to head over to the weather wall here, Troy. We've got a couple minutes here, and you can see the three predominant tracks and what happens. We were talking about Andrew and that track that occurred, and it moved towards South Florida as a Category 5 on August 24th, and it was just a very quiet season. Then all of a sudden, boom, the African wave train came alive. So notice what happens. Around that African wave train goes usually around that big Bermuda high pressure. If there are any indications this year compared to last year, that Bermuda high pressure and the pressure systems are set up a little bit farther to the east. Okay, and that would tend to keep the systems farther to the east. So what I've been talking about is, yes, maybe there could be more threats to the east coast of the United States, unfortunately. I hope none of us have any threats, really, but the east coast rather than so much the Gulf. But again, all of us are watching exactly where that high pressure sets up and where these systems move. And keep in mind, now that we're in August, we've got some three storm tracks, major storm tracks not far from home. Here's one curving up around the high pressure near the Carolinas and Bermuda. Second one right toward Florida. We're going to keep that one away, right? We don't want to see that one. And really, we don't want in the Gulf. We don't want anywhere. We don't want the third thing here as well. And we've seen that track so often as well. So we're going to continue to keep an eye on that African wave train. And of course, we have that 50-50 shot of something trying to develop. Dexter, maybe off the coast of the United States this week, but it would head away. And of course, the African wave train, we've got a tropical wave at 30% over the next 5 days watching. But indications are on the long range maps and looking at the pressure and the pressure falls, likely we're going to have a couple more hatchlings over the next couple weeks as well. Watching the African coast very carefully as we head into mid and late August. I showed you those three tracks. So far, so good. I think we're good here in Florida and the United States. No big threats for at least the next 7 to 10 days. And even the big shading out there in the Atlantic, I'm seeing trends that would take it more to the east of the United States. But again, we take it day by day. And the one thing we're going to see as we head into mid to late August is that wind shear starting to come down. And unfortunately, we're starting to see less in the way of the blues here on the map. Okay, maybe a little more lighter green, so that's an indication that wind shear is starting to lessen, and we are going to continue to watch the Saharan dust layer, of course, but that tends to filter out and, of course, decrease as we head toward late August. So again, I'm really pinpointing, I've circled my calendar for August 23rd, 24th, that 19th through the 26th period is what I have circled right now, and sure enough, we have the Climate Prediction Center showing another circle between August 13th and 19th. Really a big hatched area. There could be a couple of different tropical waves to look at here, and we'll watch what happens with that Bermuda high pressure. We'll look at the steering currents. Right now the steering currents are favored to keep any storms away from the United States, but again, this shifts back and forth during the season, and things could become a little more interesting closer to home as we head into especially that third and fourth week of August. So as we look at our hurricane names, of course we have Andrea, Barry, Chantal, Dexter, Aaron, Fernand, and Gabrielle next on the list. Coming back to our big weather story here across Florida, we've got some active weather, of course, taking the weather to the next level. That's why Robert and I are here getting you covered here coast to coast. We're watching the showers and storms fill in from Jacksonville back to Gainesville and Lake City right now. Here in Tampa, more of a miss on that rainfall as I head on back over to the desk, and we'll continue to watch that flood threat to the north. And then look at these heat indices and what the feels like temperatures here in Tampa, staying well over 100 for 6 to 8 hours all the way through the evening hours. And in fact, as we look at the